I never thought I'd end up working at Walmart, especially not by 25. I'd always envisioned a different life for myself, perhaps at a trendy startup or finishing grad school. But life has a way of humbling you. And after my mom got sick and the medical bills began piling up, my graphic design degree meant nothing compared to a steady paycheck and health insurance, both of which Walmart offered. The hiring process for the overnight stocking position in West Branch was surprisingly quick. I applied on a Tuesday, interviewed on a Thursday, and by the next Monday, I was in orientation. Brenda, the HR lady, explained the night shift hours, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., 4 days a week, and my responsibilities, stocking shelves, organizing inventory, and occasional customer assistance. The extra $1.50 an hour for overnight work was a significant factor for my mom's pharmaceutical costs. Then Brenda pulled out a plain white sheet of paper, not Walmart letterhead, containing special protocols for overnight staff at this location, which she called additional store policies. There were 5 rules. 1. All overhead lights would dim at exactly 2:13 a.m. for approximately 17 minutes. During this time, I was to remain in my assigned section and not use flashlights or phone lights. 2. If my name was called over the intercom between midnight and 5 a.m., I was not to respond, but to continue working. If the calling persisted, I was to hum any commercial jingle I could remember. 3. The family restroom near sporting goods was off limits to all night shift employees. I was to use only the facilities at the front of the store. 4. If I encountered a customer who appeared to be sleepwalking, I was to inform a manager immediately using Walkie Channel 3, and I was not to touch them or block their path. 5. If I found merchandise arranged in a perfect circle anywhere in the store, I was not to disturb it and was to radio a manager with the code phrase, "Section reset needed." I read them twice, expecting it to be a prank, but Brenda was serious. "These are non-negotiable," she stated, warning that failure to comply was grounds for immediate termination. I signed the paper, feeling a flutter of unease, but I needed the job. I was assigned to Mickey, a stocky guy in his 30s who had been with Walmart for nearly a decade, to train me. He asked if I'd read the special rules, and despite the empty store, quietly told me to just follow them. Don't ask too many questions. It's better that way. My first few nights were uneventful, physically demanding, but straightforward. The store at night had an eerie quality, with bright fluorescent lights, endless empty aisles, and occasional echoing footsteps. It wasn't until my 4th night that I experienced Rule 1. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the lights in the cereal aisle dimmed substantially, making me jump. My instinct was to use my phone for light, but Mickey's warning echoed in my head. I stood frozen, barely able to make out shapes, deciding to work by feel. That's when I heard heavy, deliberate footsteps, like someone dragging a foot, coming down the main aisle. They stopped at the end of my aisle, and though I couldn't see clearly, I made out a tall figure in a Walmart vest. But something was off about its proportions. Broad shoulders, small head. It stood motionless, and I remained still, my heart pounding. After an eternity, the figure turned, and the dragging footsteps faded. Exactly 17 minutes later, the lights returned to full brightness, and the figure was gone. When I asked Mickey about it later, he tensed. "We don't talk about that," he whispered. "Just follow the rules. Everyone who works here has seen things. The ones who make it are the ones who just follow the rules and mind their own business." He advised me to bring headphones, suggesting music helps during that time, but reiterated not to use phone lights. Over the next few weeks, I settled into the routine. Nothing unusual happened until the intercom incident. I was zoning in the health and beauty section when a woman's sweet, melodic voice called my name over the intercom. "Jamie, could you please come to the service desk?" I froze, remembering Rule 2. The service desk closed at 10 p.m., so no one should have been there. I tried to ignore it, continuing to arrange shampoo bottles, though my hands began to shake. 30 seconds later, the voice called again, sharper and more insistent. I hummed the "Like a Good Neighbor's State Farm is There" jingle. The third call made me jump. The voice dropped several octaves into a growl that didn't sound human, accompanied by high-pitched feedback. I hummed louder, switching to the Meow Mix commercial, my hands trembling so badly I knocked over conditioner bottles. Daryl, another Night Stalker, touched my shoulder, asking if I was okay. I asked if he heard it, and he subtly shifted, lowering his voice. "First time?" he asked when I nodded. "It happens to everyone eventually. The important thing is you didn't answer. A girl named Monica found out. She's not with us anymore." He didn't elaborate, but his expression darkened. After that shift, I couldn't sleep. I searched online about the Walmart. Most results were benign, but on the third page, I found a local news article from 3 years ago. Missing Walmart employee case remains unsolved. A night shift employee named Jack Alexander had disappeared after entering the family restroom near Sporting Goods at 3:15 a.m., with no footage of him exiting. Rule 3. I tried to find Monica, but found nothing. I was about to give up when I found a community forum. A user named Big Mama82 commented, "Avoid the night shift at the Walmart on Route 75. My daughter worked there for 2 months and started having severe psychological issues. She claimed that the store was different at night and that something was hunting the employees. She still wakes up screaming about the lights going out and circles on the floor." My mind raced. Were the rules actually protecting us?
The next night, I tried to act normal, but I noticed things. Managers working in pairs, inconspicuous symbols on floor tiles in certain sections, and everyone wearing a small blue star pen that wasn't standard Walmart issue. During break, I cornered Mickey. "Tell me what's really going on here," I demanded, citing the missing employees and breakdowns. He took a long drag from his cigarette. "This location has issues," he said. "Been that way since they built it." He explained that the land was cheap because no one would develop it. Local tribes avoided it. Early settlers called it bad ground, thin places. Corporate ignored the warnings. "The rules," he said. "They keep us safe from what exactly?" "You ask too many questions, Jamie. That's how people get into trouble. Just follow the rules, collect your paycheck, and try not to think too much about the rest." That shift, I did the opposite. While restocking dairy, the cooler's hum seemed ominous, like whispering. At 1:45 a.m., Diane, one of the night managers, urgently pulled me to the garden center. There, dozens of potted plants were arranged in a perfect circle with scattered soil and a garden gnome figurine in the center, facing the eastern fence. "Section reset needed," she radioed. Leonard, the other night manager, arrived with a metal box containing coarse salt mixed with dried herbs. He wore thick gloves as he sprinkled the mixture around the circle's perimeter, then placed and lit 4 small white candles aligned with compass directions. He began speaking in a guttural, ancient language. Diane quietly explained, "Somebody has to reset it before dawn, or things get worse, much worse." When I asked who arranged the plants, she said grimly, "Not who, what?" After the ritual, they carefully dismantled the circle, cleaning up and placing the gnome in Leonard's box. Diane warned me to be vigilant if assigned to the garden center, looking for merchandise moving on its own, cold spots, the smell of wet earth, and digging sounds from beyond the fence. That night marked a turning point. It became impossible to pretend this was normal. I started paying closer attention to colleagues. Tricia wore religious symbols, Dennis muttered prayers, Lacey only used written notes between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., claiming they can't track what you don't say out loud. I began keeping a journal. Night 37, lights dimmed, dragging footsteps, and a soft clicking sound. Frozen food temperatures dropped to near zero. Night 39, found a perfect circle of cereal boxes in aisle 7. Followed protocol. Leonard used black candles for the reset. Night 42. A female voice called my name on the intercom. When I didn't respond, I heard what sounded like a child crying from the garden center. Night 45. Lights didn't return after 17 minutes. Extended darkness for 3 minutes 42 seconds. Multiple footsteps heard. Diane instructed everyone to stay perfectly still and close their eyes. I knew I should quit, but I couldn't afford to. My mother's worsening condition required more expensive treatments, and Walmart's health insurance was keeping her alive. Perversely, I was getting more hours and a small promotion to night lead in grocery with $1 raise, as if the store was rewarding my compliance. 2 months in, I was assigned to train Chris, a jovial college student. He laughed off the weird rules, calling them stupid. I stopped him, firmly stating, "Listen to me carefully. This isn't a joke. People have vanished from this store. Bad things happen when the rules are broken."
My seriousness convinced him, and he promised to follow them. At 2:13 a.m., he followed my lead, standing still and silent in our aisle, visibly scared but composed. Around 4 a.m., Chris mentioned needing to use the restroom. "Hey, use the ones at the front," I reminded him. Yeah, I remember," he said, heading that way. 15 minutes later, he hadn't returned. A knot formed in my stomach. I radioed for him, no response. The front restrooms were empty. A terrible suspicion grew, and I headed to Sporting Goods. The family restroom door was closed, the occupied sign red. "Chris?" I called, knocking gently. No answer. The handle was locked. Heart racing, I radioed for a manager. "Possible Rule 3 violation. Family restroom by Sporting Goods." Diane and Leonard arrived within minutes, grim-faced. Leonard asked, "How long?" "At least 20 minutes, I replied. "Too long," Diane murmured. Leonard unlocked the door, but told me to wait outside, no matter what I heard. They entered, closing the door. Silence. Then muffled voices, Leonard's deep tones speaking strange words, Diane responding. A sudden crash, rushing water, and then screaming. Not Chris's voice, not human, a high, keening wail that made my teeth ache. I covered my ears, but it did little. After an eternity, silence fell. The door opened and Leonard emerged alone, his vest torn and soaked with a dark liquid that wasn't water. "Where's Diane? Where's Chris?" I asked. Leonard's eyes were vacant. "Diane is handling it. The boy crossed over. We couldn't bring him back." He stated flatly that Chris was gone and the company would take care of it, telling his family he never showed for his shift. I insisted on calling the police, but Leonard grabbed my arm, his wet fingers leaving burning, cold marks. "There's nothing the police can do. Chris is somewhere else now. You just need to follow the rules." He released me, ordering me home, adding, "And Jamie, don't write this in your little journal. Some things shouldn't be recorded." I was shocked he knew about my journal. Instead of going home, I drove to the local library. I researched the land's history. Property records showed Walmart bought the undeveloped land 15 years ago. In Historical Society archives, I found settler journals from the 1840s, calling it the hollow ground or the waiting place, which they avoided. One account described a trapper disappearing, leaving only a perfect circle of his possessions. Indigenous histories, though harder to find, included an interview with a tribal elder from the 1970s who spoke of the area as a thin ground, where the other side presses close, and mentioned ancient protocols to keep those who wait below from crossing over. My hands shook. The connections were too strong. The rules were modernized versions of old protections. I should have quit, but I still needed the money, and more so, answers. That night, Chris's disappearance was handled as Leonard said. He never showed up, marked as a no-call, no-show. Other employees either didn't remember him or pretended not to. Only Mickey acknowledged it. "That's how it goes sometimes," he said. He explained that the store, The whole lot was built on a liminal space, a threshold between places. The rules keep us on this side. Break them and you might end up on the other side. He tapped his blue star pin, explaining managers would give me one soon. It's kind of a protection, an old symbol. Means that you're part of the knowing ones, those who know and respect the rules, the ones who keep the balance.
The next night, Leonard called me into the management office and presented me with a small blue star pin. You've been with us for 3 months now. You've seen things, and you followed the rules. It's time you became a full member of the night team, he said. The pin felt unusually heavy and cold. He explained it meant I was one of us now, with certain responsibilities and certain protections from the consequences of working here. The pin marks you as belonging to this side, he said. As long as you wear it while you're in the store, you'll be less noticeable to what dwells beyond the threshold. If I didn't wear it, I'd be on my own. He then gave me a folder with new duties, a more detailed version of the rules plus additional protocols. Extended protocols. 1. During the light dimming, 2:13 to 2:30 a.m., employees must perform the acknowledgement, stand still, eyes forward, and silently recite, "I see only what is mine to see. I hear only what is mine to hear. I remain on this side of the veil." Blue star pins must be worn at all times while on the premises. If lost, exit the building immediately and report to management next shift. If a customer appears with completely black eyes or is speaking in multiple overlapping voices, direct them to the garden center and immediately alert management with code phrase "Special Assistance in Garden." Should I observe any employee violating the rules, I was not to intervene directly, but report to management immediately without discussing it with the employee. In the event of a full threshold breach, announced as Code White over the intercom, I was to proceed immediately to the center of the store and form a circle with other Blue Star employees, remaining until the all clear. I asked if there had ever been a full threshold breach. Leonard nodded grimly. Twice, in the 15 years that this store has been open. Both times, we contained it. Barely. He told me to memorize them, that my life depended on it, and that as a Blue Star, I'd be expected to help with resets. Being a Blue Star employee changed things. Other night shift workers treated me differently, with a mixture of respect and weariness. I was included in conversations that stopped when non-Blue Stars approached. Diane and Leonard assigned me to more sensitive areas where incidents happen more often. I learned that the garden center was the worst, being closest to the forest, and sporting goods was another hot spot. The family restroom was positioned at a confluence of threshold lines. The work became more than stocking. I learned to recognize signs of threshold thinning, cold spots, electronic malfunctions, the smell of ozone or wet earth, and merchandise rearranging itself. I learned to perform minor resets, small rituals with salt, iron filings, and specific words to strengthen the barrier. These small manifestations happened several times a week. I kept thinking about Chris and the others. Were they dead? Was there a way to bring them back? I researched intensely, finding striking similarities between our protocols and ancient barrier rituals from various cultures. My mother noticed a change in me. "You're seeing things, aren't you?" she asked during a visit. She confirmed she knew about the Mercer land where the Walmart was built, calling it the hollow ground, and that the veil is thin in that place. She said every generation had them, ways to stay safe on that land.
She warned me, "Be careful. Don't get pulled in too deep. Those who spend too much time guarding the threshold eventually become a part of it." Her warning haunted me, but I couldn't walk away due to financial necessity and a growing sense of purpose.
A few nights later, my first major incident occurred. It was just after 3 a.m. in the Halloween seasonal section. A sudden temperature drop, my breath fogging, and the smell of wet earth and decaying leaves filled the air. I reached for my walkie-talkie when I heard a child's high, tingling laugh from the next aisle. Children weren't allowed after 10 p.m. I cautiously peered around the corner and saw a small girl, perhaps 7 or 8, in an old-fashioned nightgown, her back to me. "Hello?" I called softly. "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" She didn't respond, staring at Halloween masks, her head tilted unnaturally. As I raised my walkie-talkie, she spoke, her voice strange, as if from far away. "They don't look real, not like the faces below." I asked, "What faces?" as she began to turn, slowly, jerkily. "Would you like to see? They're waiting for more, always waiting for more." I pressed the call button. "Code Blue, Halloween aisle 14. As she turned, I saw her profile. Where her face should have been was a smooth, blank surface of skin, except for a single vertical line where a mouth might be. I backed away, terrified. The line split open, widening impossibly into a gaping maw. From it came the child's laugh, doubled and tripled, multiple children laughing in unison. "Jamie," the voices said together, "we've been waiting for you. Don't you want to follow the rules? Rule number 6, when the children call, you must answer." "That's not one of the rules," I said, backing away. "There are only 5 rules." The thing's head tilted further. "On your side, perhaps." Leonard appeared beside me, grabbing my arm, and thrust a tiny cloth bag filled with blue string into my hand. "Throw it," he commanded. I hurled it. When it hit the floor at the creature's feet, there was a sizzling sound, a flash of pale blue light, an instant temperature rise, and the acrid smell of burnt hair. The child thing convulsed, its gaping mouth shutting shut, then vanished, leaving only a small, perfect circle of frost. Leonard, grim-faced, explained it was a scout sent to test for weakness. He poured a circle of salt around the frost mark. He told me the bag contained iron filings, graveyard dirt, and St. John's wort, an old remedy. It knew my name. Leonard said, "Yes, they always do. It's part of how they try to establish connection. Use your name, make it personal, try to add new rules that you'll follow without thinking." He tapped his blue star pen. "This helps protect against their influence, but not completely." I asked about faces below. Leonard hesitated, saying some knowledge was too dangerous. I insisted I deserved to know. He sighed, agreeing to meet in his office after cleanup. In the manager's office, symbols were painted on the walls, and a map of the store, marked with red X's, was on the desk. Leonard, looking troubled, began. "This store, this entire structure, was built as a containment mechanism. Walmart Corporate knows what this land is, what it contains, and that's a threshold. The X's on the map marked points where the barrier was thinnest, clustering in the garden center, sporting goods, and the family restroom. They form a pattern," he said, "tracing lines connecting the X's into a pentagram, like the pins that we wear. The symbol serves as both warning and protection. The entities on the other side want to cross over. To us, our world is nourishing. The rules keep them from crossing. The dimming lights at 2:13 a.m. are when the barrier naturally thins and they can see us better. We stay still to avoid drawing attention. Names over the intercom, they mimic voices and use the system to call to us. Answering creates a connection they can use to pull you partially across. The bathroom by sporting goods is at a major weak point, and running water creates conduits they can use.
Sleepwalking customers are not customers, but people partially pulled across, their consciousness on the other side. Interfering could pull you over too. Circles of merchandise are their attempts at creating portals using our products as doorways. We perform resets to close potential openings. The child thing mentioned faces below. Leonard confessed the entities collect trophies, and faces are very prized from people who disappear, like Chris. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He said, "The corporate knows the risks. It's why the pay and benefits are so good. It's why certain incidents are handled internally." When I called it insane and asked why they didn't close it, he said, because the threshold would remain. Without the containment measures we have in place, it would grow, it would spread. The protocols don't just protect us, they protect everybody in West Branch. I asked if we were sacrificial lambs. He said, "No, we're the guardians. There's a difference." He gave me an old leather-bound book, its cover unmarked, but warm to the touch. "It's time you learn the deeper protocols. This knowledge might be the only thing that brings you back." I asked if anyone had ever come back after being taken. His silence was answer enough. The book fascinated and terrified me. It documented the Hollow Ground's history, entities, barrier rituals, and emergency protocols. Some symbols hurt my eyes, others were diagrams of the land. The most disturbing section detailed that those who crossed over didn't just die, they were absorbed, their consciousness and physical forms separated and repurposed. The entities couldn't create their own bodies to cross. My work suffered from sleep deprivation and anxiety, but my mother's treatments were working, providing some consolation.
One afternoon, Diane texted me, "Emergency meeting tonight. All Blue Stars 9 p.m. before shift." All 18 Blue Star members gathered. Leonard and Diane stood by a whiteboard covered with symbols and a timeline. Leonard announced, "We're facing an unprecedented situation. The barrier has been weakening steadily for months. We're approaching a potential full threshold breach." The breach was predicted for tomorrow night, October 31st, Halloween, when the veil was thinnest. Diane explained Emergency Protocol Omega. Blue Stars positioned strategically. The building closed to customers. Non-Blue Star employees were given the night off. I was assigned to sporting goods near the family restroom. We would be provided with barrier kits. "Under no circumstances are you to leave your assigned area until the all-clear is given," Diane instructed. Mickey asked, "And if the barrier fails completely?" Leonard's face was grim. "Then we implement the final containment. The building has been prepared since its construction for this possibility." Diane explained, "There are charges placed at structural points throughout the foundation. In the event of a complete breach, the entire building will be collapsed inward, sealing the threshold with concrete and steel." "With us inside?" someone asked. Leonard nodded. "If it comes to that, yes. Better 18 souls than the thousands who would be taken." We realized we were the last line of defense. I spent what might be my last day putting my affairs in order, visiting my mother, writing vague letters to friends, and paying rent. As the sun set, I drove to Walmart. The parking lot was empty, exterior lights dim. Inside, Blue Star employees purposefully set up barrier materials. Leonard handed me a small cloth bag containing iron filings, silver shavings, salt, and herbs, explaining it was a last resort. I also received a blue candle, a vial of sage-smelling liquid, and a paper with strange words. Diane instructed me to memorize these words, visualizing a blue light shield for personal protection if the primary barrier failed. At exactly 11:30 p.m., we took our positions. I stood near the family restroom, barrier materials arranged in a semicircle. At 11:45 p.m., the regular lights shut off, replaced by dim blue emergency lights.
Over the intercom, Leonard recited words from the book, a strengthening ritual that we all silently joined, touching our blue star pins. Midnight approached. At 12 a.m. on Halloween, a violent shudder ran through the building. The floor vibrated, shelves rattled, products tumbled. Emergency lights flickered, and I thought I saw shapes moving in the flashes of darkness. "Hold positions," Leonard's voice crackled over the walkie-talkie. "The first barrier is holding." The shaking subsided, but the air felt heavy, charged with static. The smell of wet earth and decay filled the store, stronger than ever before. Then came hundreds of overlapping whispers from everywhere and nowhere. A dark shape slid at the periphery of my sight, vanishing when I looked directly, reappearing elsewhere. "Zone 7 reporting manifestation," Mickey's tense voice came. "Multiple shadow forms in the garden center." Another voice. "Zone 4 manifestation confirmed. Temperature dropping rapidly in electronics." Diane responded, "Maintain the barrier protocols. Do not engage unless they enter your immediate area." The shadows grew bolder, taking more defined shapes, like negative space where people should be. At 12:17 p.m., the first scream came over the walkie-talkie. "They're in through Zone 9 there." The transmission cut off. "Zone 9 report," Leonard demanded. But silence answered. Another panicked voice. "Something's happening to the floor and housewares! Oh God, it's opening up!" I wanted to see, but knew leaving my position would weaken the barrier. I stood firm as shadows in my section grew numerous.
At 12:30 a.m., everything changed. The emergency lights failed completely, plunging the store into absolute darkness. In that moment, something cold and damp brushed my face. I jerked back, fumbling for my flashlight despite the rules. Before I could turn it on, the emergency lights flickered back to life, revealing the floor in the center of my zone had turned a deep, unnatural black, with depth like an abyss. From that darkness, something was emerging. It rose slowly, a mass of shifting shapes, never settling into one form, human-like one moment, writhing limbs the next. The only constant were the faces, dozens of them, pressing outwards like masks embedded in clay, expressions frozen in terror or pain. With sick horror, I recognized one of them. Chris, his eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. The entity continued rising, reaching nearly to the ceiling. Leonard's calm but urgent voice came over the walkie-talkie. "Full breach confirmed. Initiate final containment. I repeat, initiate final containment." This was it. The building would collapse, sealing us in. Before I could process my doom, I heard my mother's voice, clear as day, speaking directly into my mind. "Jamie, remember what I told you about the threshold?" I remembered. "The hollow ground doesn't just take, Jamie, it connects. Those caught between can always find their way home if they remember one thing. Thresholds work both ways." Acting on instinct, in desperate hope, I grabbed my barrier supplies and threw them, not at the entity, but into the black depth in the floor. I followed with the blue candle, lit by the electric blue light of my fading pin. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The blackness pulsed, and the creature let out a sound that defied description. Part scream, part thunderclap, part the rending of reality itself. The pull was instant and overwhelming. The entity began to be dragged back toward the opening, its form distorting. Around the store, I heard similar sounds as the breach reversed. But I was being pulled too. My feet slid as the threshold's gravity seized me. I grabbed a shelf, holding on with all my strength as the vortex tried to claim me. "Jamie," Leonard appeared at the end of the aisle, fear on his face. "Let go of the shelf. The final containment has been triggered. You only have seconds to get out." The building was violently shaking from the detonating charges. The entity made a final desperate lunge, and I saw Chris's face in its mass, his eyes suddenly focusing on mine with recognition. In that moment, I made my choice. I let go of the shelf and allowed the threshold to pull me forward, not to be claimed by the entity, but to pass through to the other side. Perhaps I could find those who had been taken. Perhaps there was a way back that didn't involve letting these horrors into our world. As I fell into the blackness, time slowed. I saw Leonard running, Diane appearing behind him, the ceiling cracking, the entity being compressed back into the void along with me. And then I was through, falling into a space beyond understanding. I don't know how to describe where I am now. It's not a physical place, no walls or floors, no up or down. There's light but no source, sounds from everywhere and nowhere. And there are others here. Chris, Monica, dozens more who were taken over the years. They exist in a strange half-state, neither fully conscious nor truly gone. I've learned terrible truths in this place. Our reality is vibrant, dynamic, rich with energy. Theirs is fading, dying. They don't take faces as trophies. They take them to remember what it was like to have form, definition, and identity. They are ancient, the last survivors of a nearly exhausted reality. Most importantly, I've learned my mother was right. Thresholds work both ways. Being caught between worlds doesn't mean being trapped forever. It means having access to both sides. The Walmart is gone, collapsed into rubble and paved over for a new strip mall. The threshold remains, sealed more effectively than before. Yet there are other thresholds, other hollow grounds where the veil thins, places where those caught between might find their way back if they're clever and determined enough. I'm searching for one now, gathering scattered consciousness of Chris and the others as I go. I will find a way to bring us home. So, if you work in retail, especially the night shift, pay attention to the rules they give you. They may seem strange, arbitrary, or silly, but follow them anyway. Because some stores are built on the wrong ground. Some places should have been left hollow, and some entities are still hungry for new faces to remember.